Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here in the afternoon is when I feel most hungry, actually. So it's a great time to be talking about food and all these lovely women. I didn't plan it like that it would be a panel full of women, but it is. And one of those things that I guess we understand really well in all its nuance. Since we're here in the context of a literary festival, I thought it would be nice to actually start with a little story before we went into each of yours. And I would like to tell a bit of the story of actually Quiet and Poe. I think most of you would know it, some of you wouldn't. Um, yeah, there are not too many people here. Does anybody not know the story of Quiet and Poe? Everybody does? Would you put your hand up if you did? Okay, great. So it's an old Khasi folktale, and I think different. Maybe we've each heard a different version of it. We can own a folktale. We can tell it in ways that we have heard. I heard mine from my mother. So once there were these two very good friends, and one was a very. They were both young men. One was very rich, the other was very poor, and they would hang out together very often. And mostly it happened that it was the poor man who hung out with the rich man. And when he would visit him in his village and in his home, he would be treated really well, which in Khasi culture means that you're fed really well. And when they say you're fed really well, that means you're also not just given tea and snacks, you're also given rice and meat and stew and, an entire meal. So one fine day, this friend, the rich man, sends word to his poor friend's family, home, village, to tell him that he's coming for a hunting trip and he's going to drop in. And this poor guy was like, in a real, like so stressed out that his friend was coming. He runs to his wife. He's excited and like stressed at the same time because he wants to show him the same kind of hospitality that his friend has always shown him. So he tells his wife, my best friend is coming and I'm always with him and he treats me so well. So when he comes home, I want you to give him the best meal ever. And so this wife goes into the kitchen and she is thinking, um, I have to cook the best meal for my husband's best friend. But she looks at, the supplies that she has, and she has nothing in the, not even enough rice to cook. So she goes to the nearest shop and she begs the shopkeeper to give her some supplies on credit, and the shopkeeper refuses, knowing that they are poor and unable to pay back. And she returns home and she's deeply ashamed and she's really disturbed and it's like, what do I do? I can't shame my husband this way. And she takes this, the knife that we put in our kitchens to cut meat, and she just can't bear the shame of it, and she kills herself with this knife. And in the meantime, the husband and the wife, the best friend are, sitting outside waiting for this meal to happen. And, so the husband calls out to the wife, is the meal ready? And he gets no response. And yeah, so then he gets no response. He goes into the kitchen and he sees his wife lying there and he realizes why she had killed herself. And, apart from the fact that he's grieving for his wife, he also cannot stand the shame of now facing his friend who he is unable to feed. So he takes that very same knife and kills himself. It's a rather tragic story. A lot of our Khasi folktales are. And in the meantime, the best friend is waiting outside and wondering what's happened to his friend and his wife. So he goes in to check, and sure enough, he sees them dead. And he realizes why, because there's no food in the kitchen, and he takes the very same knife and cuts himself too. In the meantime, in the village, the story doesn't end. The tragedy doesn't end. There is a theft in the village, and the entire village is running after the thief. And so as this thief is running, he's trying to get away from the villagers who are chasing him. He sees this really quiet house, and he's like, oh, that's a good place to hide. So he hides in this really quiet house, and he is so tired and it was already dark that he falls asleep. The next morning at sundawn, this thief wakes up and he sees his three dead bodies. He's like, oh my God, if if they were running after me for stealing, they would, I don't know what they would do to me if they thought I murdered. So he took that very same knife and killed himself. A couple of days after, the entire village gathered around this house, knowing that something had happened. There was no activity around it. And when they gathered around these four bodies and understood that actually there was, the sort of figured out what the story was, uh, it was then that the village council realized that, poverty shouldn't do this, that all of us should be able to be to offer hospitality to anyone who comes into our house. And so let's look at what's plentiful around us, and then, kwai, timpo, the areca nut, and the betel leaf was very, very plentiful. It was just there in nature. It was a free thing to give. And he said, since this is so, the betel leaf and the lime is the husband and the wife. It symbolizes. The betel nut is the friend, the best friend who's a rich man. And there's also a little bit of tobacco leaf that you stuff into the back of your, in between your cheek, and that is the tobacco, the thief, that represents a thief. So, to me, food is about many things. And I think for me, the story is not so much because now, actually, as most of us in Shillong knew, kwai is not free anymore, and neither is it cheap. It's actually quite expensive. And, the other things that we do in the plains to give away is that we actually always serve people a glass of water, and that's not free either anymore. And, as COVID has taught us, the air isn't free anymore now. So, I mean, for me, it's like food is not just one thing that we get in the restaurants, but it's something to think about. Like, our forests produce, and we come from a state with its very, very high forest cover. Um, and as a lot of us indigenous communities, we have traditionally known how to live with our nature, and we've known how to work with our forest produce, and we've also have this concept that has always been part of our culture, which is to eat head to toe, head to tail, which is also a respect for that animal that you hunt. And so you have different ways of cooking it. So on that note, I would actually like to start with Mumming, who is from UNI Arts Cafe. I think with each of you, I've known you all for a long time, or I know your work. And so with UNI Arts Cafe, I mean, I've been in love with One Pie since he started that space so many years ago. And I love how, like UNI Arts Cafe has brought community together. It has also looked at food, and there's games. So, there's so much of the element of like so many types of culture, and with food at the center of it, or just part of all of it. So tell us a bit about UNI Arts Cafe.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I think when they were announcing, when they were calling, like introducing me, I think they introduced a bit about UNI Arts Cafe also. So UNI Arts Cafe is a project under Part to Creation. So it's a cafe basically. When Bawan Pai started this, I wish he was here. I mean, if he was here in person, but unfortunately, because of some other problems, I have to be here. He started it as a hub for artists. Him being an artist himself, so it was in Modpran. So initially, it was just tea. There was no other food that was served in UNI. So it was different types of varieties of tea, and then uh, our local artists also they would hang out there, and then their paintings will be displayed there. So just a place to have conversation, and just forget your phone, forget your laptops, just sit together and have conversation. So eventually, when people come, they started asking for food. Just tea is not enough. We want to have something with this also. So that's how the concept of the cafe in Mauro was born. So there, Bawan Pai, the cafe we wanted to introduce, not actually introduce, it's something which is always there in our society, like pansao. Yeah, it's something which we usually have at home or when we go for picnics and all. So we think, why don't we introduce that in the cafe? Like, bring back memories. And pansao is something when you come to the cafe, we do not give you knives. So it's something where you have to put your phone aside, wash your hands, peel the potatoes, and have it together with your friends and family. So that was the whole behind what Bawan Pai wanted, as a community to come together again. Because when we go to restaurants, before the food come, we're engaged in our phones.
Yes.
Yeah. And even after the food comes, we'll be taking pictures, having the food, looking at the phone. So, but when you have pansao and tungtap and dothat and all of this, our local food, you're not able to do that because your hands are occupied. So yeah, I think food plays a major part in bringing people together in the cafe.
Thank you, Momin. So I'll move on. I'll come back to you. I think I'll move on now to Daisy. I met Daisy the beginning of this year, and I've just fallen in love with the kind of work that Daisy does, and Daisy knows this. I'm quite unashamedly in love because, look at this. Daisy has actually agreed to bring this. It's an ancient piece of bark, tree
Blanket.
bark, and it is used as a blanket and a mattress. And this is something that I think I'll let Daisy talk about it. So for Daisy, I felt it would be so lovely to talk about forest produce and how we use it, not necessarily as food, but in many other different ways. So tell us a little bit about this bark, Daisy.
Okay, I'm going to share a very little knowledge which I have with you about this pak. We call this bark as pak or sempak. So I'll just read out,
Sure.
please.
Sure.
This pak or
Daisy has been very nervous about being on this panel.
Yeah,
And I
really.
was like, this is your life's work. I mean, just look at it, look at the different things that Daisy makes. And so, yeah, thank you for preparing so much.
May not be much, but let me share
Mhm.
a little knowledge I have of how to produce this pak. We call this pak or sempak. It is the mattress or the blanket used by our ancestors. It is made from a specific tree called pakram. The straight bark, about 8 feet long, is first selected and cut down, and the outer layer is pulled out from the bark. Then it is beaten by the indigenous wooden tool made from palwang or tamarind tree. This wooden tool is called panel. While beating it, it is stretched from time to time so that it will be expanded, and then there will be different textures from rough to smooth and soft depending how well it is beaten. For making a blanket, 3 layers, and for mattress about 5 layers are stitched together. Even the yarn or the twine, you can see this twine, even this twine is made out of bark. It is twisted and made into a twine. So that's how it is made. So
Amazing. How old is this, Daisy?
mm, this is maybe 20 years old only.
Okay.
Yeah, because
About 20 years.
yeah, there are very few people who are still practicing this.
And from our last conversation, I remember you've been trying to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it, no?
trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to contact the people from the interior villages so that I can learn from them. But they are saying that they don't have time. They don't know the value of this precious
Yeah.
product. They are into the conventional materials. That is why they don't have time. But I'll still continue to persuade them so that I
Please
can,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, I think look at this. I mean, I don't know if you are in love with it, but I look at it and I see bark and I see tree and I see warmth and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
protection, Look at it. It's amazing. And it looks ancient.
yeah, of course.
So, thank you, Daisy. I'll come back to you. Now on to Madeline. I've known Madeline since, along with the journey of her book. We have copies of this book available in the bookshop, which is just next door. If you haven't been to the bookshop, please do. It is called The Kitchen. And tell us a little bit about the book, Madeline.
Good afternoon, everyone present here, and thank you, Mary, for having me, and congratulations on organizing such a beautiful literary festival for
Thank
Shillong
you.
and getting people from all over to participate in this occasion. This book is actually my first book was a translation of my grand uncle's poems, so Tham. And then once you get into the writing knack, you kind of, want to do something else after that. I'm a big fan of cooking because both my parents loved cooking, especially my dad, Every weekends he'd put on his lungi and then sit and start cooking. And it was more like a time for the family to be together. He'd get one of my brothers to cut the onions, somebody to grind some masalas. So this kind of family, occasion, we would all be gathered in the kitchen to produce something delicious and something which we all enjoy. And I think that is one of the reasons that got me into the journey of the Khasi kitchen and writing this book. And of course, I must thank the UGC also because I was awarded the FDP, with Faculty Development Program, which was which I could have time to write and come out with this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. We will come back to you. Just one question though. Um, the Khasi kitchen, because you know this, I met you in Delhi many years ago when you were in the process of publishing this book, and I think in Delhi the Khasi kitchen has a very different kind of reaction, perhaps, or anywhere outside of Shillong, because we actually don't have Khasi restaurants anywhere outside of Shillong, amazingly, or outside of Meghalaya, Khasi Hills. So how was it received here? Do people buy it in Shillong? How has it been received?
It's been a very challenging time because when this book came out, COVID hit the, planet Earth.
Mm.
So we could not have a proper launch. We just had a soft launch at Intac head office at Lodi Estate. And this is the first time like I'm actually talking publicly about this book, but it's been
In
in the
Shillong, is it?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Shillong.
Ah.
But it's been in the market, and people who know have been calling, and I've seen a couple of comments on Instagram and all. I think it's people are quite happy to have something to refer to when
Okay.
it comes to Khasi food.
I also think that every Khasi kitchen possibly has a different variation of a similar recipe as well, no?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. It's each family is a different. If you go from Sora to Shillong, Jawai, Bhoi region, War region, there are different variations of the same dish. It depends on the palate and the family and the way they prepare stuff. Yeah.
Dasu, if I may, what I really, really need right now, a big, strong cup of coffee. How did you get Shillong to start drinking coffee?
Hi, I am Dasumarlin Majaw. I started Smoky Falls Tribe Coffee around nearly 12 years ago. So actually the history of coffee has been there with us, with me, right from my late grandmother's time, right from the 1985, 86, when I was just around 6, 7 years old. I was introduced to the local coffee that we have in our village. So every winter, my uncle would bring the coffee beans, and my late grandmother would roast them in like pan roasting it, and we used to have that light version of the coffee. So what happened is that during those days, I was very I was always into learning more about our coffee. So every year, every winter when we go to our village, of course those time we had to go by those big buses, and it was quite challenging for me to reach our village as well. So it always stays in my mind, and I used to think that I want to do something about coffee about our place, in our place. But then at that time, I didn't realize that the same coffee that we have is the same coffee that Nescafe is brewing it. I thought it's a different variety. I didn't quite understand that it is the same variety of coffee that we have in a village. In our village, being the southern slopes of Cherrapunji, so we have a variety called Robusta. And also in other regions, in Khasi Hills, we have Arabica as well. But then again, after doing my work, and my father helped me with, doing study, and my father already have a book called Cultivation of Coffee in Khasi Hills, published in 1905. That was long time ago, during the British era, and they also have a plantation, which was there right from 1850s, it seems. During those time, the southern slopes of Cherrapunji, people there, they are introduced, they were introduced to having coffee. I believe by the missionaries then. So they have the first coffee plantation was there in Musto. Then that time when the British started building the railways, we had like the plantation was there, and then slowly people were the missionaries give them seeds and plants to grow coffee plant around that area. So mainly like Tirna, Nongriat, we have Musto, we have Sosarat, we have Shela, we have Ishamati growing coffee. So when I started, going back to the village and start buying coffee, so people quite surprised that after 18, during 1850s to 1950s, it seems my grandmother was telling that people have coffee, especially during winters, they have coffee every day. But then slowly tradition died. People start having tea. So in our villages, people when they don't really look at coffee as a crop, as a cash crop. They look at as as a plan to for fencing. They don't really have much knowledge about what to do. The later generation. Then again, our late grandparents also they moved out from the village, so they took the the knowledge from the village. So that is how the tradition of having coffee died in our village, not in only our village but surrounding areas. Then after that, then when I got back into when after I finished my masters and I started doing many other work, I even joined the bank. But then still I keep on going doing something about coffee. Then I started 12 13 years back, I told my uncle to bring me few sacks of coffee. I want to try it. Then again, I got in touch with Coffee Board Shillong, which really helped me, to do my research and work on it. And they also introduced me to some other farmers which grow Arabica. Because Indian population, they are more into Arabica because it's slightly sweet, not like Robusta.
So was your market from the beginning, was it always national as opposed to local, or how was that market divided?
See, the thing is that when we started here locally, when I started, started putting out in Facebook and all, I got, messages like people were quite like surprised about having coffee here in our state. So the people who got in touch with me were the people who had been outside the
Yeah.
country, who had traveled, who know how to have our coffee.
From within the
Yeah,
state?
from within the
Okay.
state. So when we put out the product in the market, it was quite a challenge because Indian population and also in Shillong, people are so used to having instant coffee.
Yes.
Especially during Christmas time, we have, we buy the instant coffee and mix
Yes.
it with milk and have it. So when we put out the product in the market, it was quite challenging. Like we had to do many events and promotions, and thankfully our own crowd of people who had been outside, who travel outside, they know about this coffee and they really supported us right from day one. Until now, 12 years on, also they still are customers. And they supported us and understand and then also take our coffee all around the world. Of course, our market is here in Shillong, and thankfully now we are growing day by day, from cafes to homes where people buy a coffee in retail markets, and also in India where we're selling through Amazon, and other small retails in Mumbai and Bangalore, and also some cafes in Port Blair they're using our coffee. Some small places where they want to have
you've really traveled.
niche coffees. So yeah.
Thank you, Dasu. I'll come back to you. So it looks like we've just got 10 minutes left. We could go on forever, I think. If I may ask you, Momin, about UNI Arts Cafe, and apart from, there are so many dishes that you actually, we had some images. Can we project the images from UNI Arts Cafe? Do we have them? Because it's just to give you a sense, for those of you who have not been, of the kind of food that we've actually always had, a lot of us in our homes, like the what Maming had mentioned, the san way to hansa watung tap. But for the first time, we had a cafe or a commercial space that was actually selling it and has widely popularized it. So can we see some of those images and maybe get hungry together? You want to tell us a bit about the different images? I mean, what it is for those people, for those of us here who don't know.
Okay, the one shown here is Putaro.
That's a
Putaro
rice
and
cake.
Dodgem
It's a
snack,
cold
yes.
rice cake.
So this is also quite popular. And the Putaro actually is made by the women in Maulai only. So what I want to mention is that whatever items that we have in the cafe, except for the the vegetables, the herbs, most of them are being produced by locally.
Yes.
Like the Rosella, when you come to the cafe, the first thing that you'll get is a complimentary drink of
Shot
the
of
Rosella.
Rosella,
Yeah, a shot
yeah.
of Rosella. So Rosella is we're in partnership with these women farmers in Maulong. It's in Riboy district. So they're the ones who grow it for us. They dry it and then
Do we have an image? Can we scroll
I
through
don't
the next one, please? I think we have Rosella. Anyone hungry yet? Momin will take you along to you and I Art Cafe after this. This is Rosella, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's served hot and cold also. Yeah. So even the smoked beef and the smoked pork also, we have our, our people there in Latkarhong who brings it for us.
Okay.
And then the pansao also, it's from Kinshi, and then some of it is from Latkarhong from Smith side. So yeah, we try to involve a lot of our this is the smoked pork. I think this is
Ah,
pork.
okay.
Yeah.
The next image, please. Next image, please. Okay.
This is
platter.
the platter, the rice platter. We have just stem, jali, and then the salad, then the dosnyang and dothat. Yeah.
So this is a great variety of both like big meal, main meals as well as tea time snacks.
Yes.
And the tea time snacks, I think, is what you and I has really sort of, like put out there in the public. That we usually don't normally all get in restaurants or cafes before. No?
Yeah.
I wish I could, speak so much more, but it looks like how much more time do we have, Nida? Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us here. And
thank
now
you, Mary.
thank you. So Daisy, I'm just going to go to one more product which I love from the Garo culture because I think right now it's important. I mean, I see these plastic bottles in a lake that does not allow plastic and it hurts me, like I think it should hurt all of us because our planet is ailing. And one of those things that in your culture you've only always done and done so well is to use the bitter gourd, and it has only always used for water storage and wine storage, and actually the wine stored in this bitter gourd is really tasty. The water is tasty too, but the wine is really tasty. Tell us a bit about this.
This is a goat,
Yeah.
but it's a big one. We
How
with
is
the
it
garos,
dried? How is it?
uh,
Because garos have always
use
used it.
and you have seen so many of this collection of this type of
Yes.
goats in my house, and with garos, this is daily one of the daily objects of the Garo household. So, but people since they
What
have
is it
bottles,
called
they
in Garo?
lao
Lao. Okay.
lao.
And people have always used it to store water normally?
No, they
Okay.
don't. They no longer use it.
Okay.
They go
But
for
they
those
used to traditionally.
utensils. Yeah.
Ah.
What
Plastic?
aluminium
Aluminium.
basins and then plastic bottles to carry to the gym also. So, but now I think, but they are becoming aware and they are growing and they know that they know the potentiality of this for the marketing.
And
So
how long does it last once you've dried it
No,
and you're
no,
storing in it?
it lasts until and unless it breaks.
Ah,
I
okay.
guess.
Okay.
But the thing is that these village people, they don't know how to modify it like this easily.
And this is something that you've created? You've
No,
made this?
I asked one of my friends to get it to the can work.
Okay.
So this way it's done only.
So yeah, an alternative to plastic that has only always existed in the state.
Even this can be used as a ladle also. It can be cut into half and then it can be used as a mark to take out the water. And those pong, that long neck goats you have seen,
Yes.
that is that can also be used as a ladle
Okay.
once it's cut into half.
Different. Okay, so different
So
usage.
different uses of this I can show, and even this one is a very beautiful
Ornamentation, yeah.
hair adornment.
So
Even these cute ones, and then even I'm using this as
Christmas
a Christmas
decorations,
ornaments
yeah.
for Christmas tree. Only the traditional
Yeah.
Christmas tree ornaments.
So So many usages. I mean, I would have loved to because Daisy does like this amazing range of like so much work using natural products. You have to go to her home. It's like a museum of learning, and I call her our very own. Like really, all of the knowledge, cultural knowledge you hold is amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much, Daisy, for being part of this panel today. Yeah. I mean, I actually have so many more questions, but I have a question each, just one each, please. Madeline, this book, Khasi Kitchen, because I've been a Northeastern, I call myself a Northeastern, so I've been out for so long, who's lived outside of the Northeast for so long that I know that there are so many myths about us. What myths do you think your book has busted about cuisine from this region?
Quite a loaded question, Mary. Uh, the only myth that this book has busted, I think that if you give yourself enough time and if you invest your soul into anything, you can cook any cuisine. So I've tried all the recipes and I've taken a bit of, a bit of intellectual digression into getting the English equivalent word for local indigenous
Mm.
fruits and some of the ingredients. For example, jamardor is fish mint, and various things also that we eat as khasis. For example, I've got the botanical name for soplang.
Mm-hmm.
And on further research, I found out that soplang is actually very good for deworming. So whenever our parents, when we were small, they used to buy soplang and nay, and we eat. We eat it as a snack, but we are not realizing that it is doing some good to our system. So these things, and for example, sopi is very popular also in mainland China. They have the exact, especially sopi nam, they have the exact variety in China. So, I think this whole Asian belt, we have a lot of commonalities amongst us. And sopi nam is bayberry, okay? And we have the local fruit like soshang, which is I've given it's called silverberry, the English equivalent. That's also very healthy, and all the local foods. I mean, fruits especially, which come in season. I think that's what we should encourage our children, and we ourselves also should eat because they come out naturally from the soil. They're used to this environment, and so they have the health benefits that we living here need to have a healthy life.
Thank you, Madeline. So you took a philosophical and yet at the same time also looking at like health benefits of food. I think for me the myth that it busted, and I love to give this, like I show people this, about the fact that actually outside of the Northeast, I think we are perceived as a very, very high meat eating people only and not vegetarians. And you have a lot of vegetarian and salad options there, which is so lovely. I've actually learned quite a few myself. So thank you for that. And that's a myth that I think you've busted for those who have looked at the book. One last question for you, Dasu. It's got nothing to do about coffee. It's about how do we get rich? So how do you be an entrepreneur in food in this state? I think we have so many great products. You're doing quite a few range. Like we've only always had that beautiful turmeric. We've had the most wonderful pepper coming from here. But no one's really taken it out, packaged it, put it out, and got rich from it. So tell us a bit about entrepreneurship. We don't know want to do your bank balance. So great.
I'm not rich, of course. Still working and still struggling and still paying my loans, of course.
Give us hope.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, hope is there. We're working towards it, to reach that. The thing is that as yesterday, my daughter was talking about spices and how the British and during those days, the travelers, they came to India with that, trait of spices.
Yeah.
And how Kerala, how these coastal areas got rich because of spices. So that those days, like that was like around 100 of years ago. Like some of our Indian states, they got rich through spices. But when you look at spices and the spices farmers here in Meghalaya, it's very, very, very sad, where we don't really know how to market up produce, even though we have the best produce here. Like, in Giant Hills, we have the lakadong, we have the black pepper, we have, like all these good and very healthy, and the way that they produce their spices and everything, it's quite natural. So now, thankfully, now all this has shifted towards us, you know. So I think once we invest into spices, and we have many young crowd, young people now, who instead of looking for jobs, they can also come up with ways where they can come up with good products, some which I know one girl, she is just a BSc pass out, but she came up with good food, like she's coming up with good food products, bottling them and selling them even outside the state. So same as like for me also, when I started with coffee, then slowly we started going into spices and value addition products is very important, because why as like people, they don't really have black pepper or wild pepper is like something which
Yes.
is very good but not really commonly used here. So for me, like I started using the wild pepper in some of the spice jellies that I'm making. So that is very good, and also we've got them tested and found out that is very good for cold and cough. So of course now in the like during the pandemic, like we can't even say that okay, this is good for the corona, but it's good for cold and cough. So these are like some of the things that we add value to the produce that we have. So I believe that even later, like some other young people who got inspired by us doing this, they can explore more, do some more research, and get into, formalities with the FCI and come up with good products. As of myself, also, I'm coming up with like in other products like from jackfruit. Jackfruit being one, superfood, but which is being very like ignored here in Meghalaya. So we're coming up with good products hopefully soon by February, and we're putting that in the market, which is an Indian snack. We hope that we're getting good review and feedback from the group that I am in. So these are the things that we give value addition, and also new skincare products as well. We're coming.
Okay.
Yeah, from few spices that we have. Yeah.
Thank you, Dasu. I think what I draw from that is value add and keep including, right? That your range is always evolving. So I wish you all the best, and
Thank you, Mary.
thank you
Thank
each of you for this lovely conversation. I hope we have many more. Thank you, and thank you to each of you. I wish we had a little time for questions, but I think we should move on to the next. We're rushing a little bit because you got very delayed in the morning. And please stay on. There's many more sessions, 2.5 days to go. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for this mouth-watering session.